Okay, the next word class we're going to talk about is conjunctions. Now, the definition of conjunction is right there in the name. Con means with or together, and junctio in Latin, or just junction and words like that in English, means you've joined things together. So conjunction literally just means joining things together, like that. And that's exactly what they do. In a sentence, you use conjunctions to join parts of the sentence or even just words together. Like really simple examples, something like Bob and Sarah are going to the shops. The word and is like the simplest, most kind of useful conjunction that you're going to get all over the shop. Or do you want chicken or beef? Some people would argue that the and here is kind of hiding the fact that there's actually two parallel sentences going on. Bob is going to the shops and Sarah is going to the shops, or something like that. That's a topic that we might touch on later on in syntax. So maybe just bear that little detail in mind, and we might talk about it again later. Anyway, when we talk about conjunctions, something that's really helpful to know is what is a clause. And basically, in a sentence, you might actually have a couple of mini sentences that are all sort of working together. And these mini sentences are called clauses. Now, each clause in a sentence will have its own verb, or like a string of verbs. It'll have its own main verb going on. Like this sentence here, I can't do my homework because I don't have enough time. So you can see that's actually two mini sentences joined together. The green one, I can't do my homework, that's the main sentence. And then because I don't have enough time, that's like an extra clause there that is giving you more information. Okay, so let's explain this a little bit further. You might have a sense like this. Do you want something? Do you want to eat something, or do you want to go home? I like chocolate, but Max prefers cheese. We couldn't see anyone, so we left again. Each of those, you've got two clauses, and then you've got a conjunction that is joining them together. So in the first one it's or, in the next one it's but, and in the third one it's so. These ones we call coordinating conjunctions, because basically the two clauses are of equal importance. Both of them would be fine on their own. So do you want to eat something? Do you want to go home? Both of them would be completely fine sentences on their own. They don't need each other to exist. I like chocolate, Max prefers cheese. Both of those sentences work totally fine on their own. And so these ones that join things of equal importance, we call them coordinating conjunctions. When you teach English, particularly English as a foreign language, they often give you the acronym FANBOYS, which is for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And that kind of gives you the 7 most common, or some people just say straight up, these are the only 7 coordinating conjunctions. That's actually something linguists argue about, but let's not talk about that. For the moment, if you see them, generally that's going to be coordinating conjunctions. Particularly the important ones are and, but, and or. Those 3 get used heaps. But, I mean, all of these get used, so I'm going to bed for I am tired. You know, people still understand what that means. Maybe sounds a little old-fashioned, but it exists. I'm cold and I'm hungry, okay? He's not cold, nor is he hungry. We know nor. Nor's a good word. I'm hungry, but I didn't bring lunch. Obviously, very high frequency to have but connecting things in your sentences. Are you hungry or are you cold? He's tired, yet he won't go to bed. I was hungry, so I ate something. All of those, coordinating conjunctions. Now, have a look at these ones. These are a little different. I didn't do my homework because I didn't have time. Or I don't know if he can come. Those examples are both subordinating conjunctions. Now, the difference is, in these sentences here, the second half that is starting with because, or in the next one is starting with if, the second half is not meaningful without the first half. So, because I didn't have time, that has to be in relation to something. You wouldn't say that as a sentence on its own without some kind of relevance to some greater context. So I didn't do my homework because I didn't have time. So I didn't do my homework is the important part. That's the actual topic we're talking about. That's your main clause. And then because I didn't have time is a subordinate clause. It's a kind of dependent clause that depends upon the context of not doing your homework. And then I don't know is the main clause. If he can come is not a full sentence on its own. It has to be in reference to something else. Okay, so basically, if it's not meaningful without the main clause, it's a subordinate clause, and the word that starts these subordinate clauses is a subordinating conjunction. There are lots of them, and they're very, very useful. Some common ones are things like because, if, however, whether. There's lots, and you'll see some more examples. So think about, like in a sentence like because I said so, anytime your mum says because I said so, it has to be in some other context, like he's not allowed to go out tonight because I said so. So it needs the main clause to be meaningful. You know it's a subordinate clause, which is a type of dependent clause. You'll hear both of those terms in different contexts. Anyway, there's lots. Because, although, if, that, before, things like that. Jane is good at music because she practices. I like Scott, although he smells funny. I don't know if he will come. They often say that good things come in threes. That is a very, very useful and very common subordinating conjunction. That good things come in threes. So that's like the linking that. They say that, or I think that, or I believe that, or I hope that, or anything where it's like I, verb, that, blah, blah, blah. It's a subordinating conjunction. Before in something like, please wash your hands before you eat lunch. Before is an interesting one because it can also be a preposition. If you watch the video on prepositions, when you have a sentence like before the game or some other noun, context-wise it can do multiple jobs, as lots of words can. Ultimately, context is how you have to define all of these things. Okay, now, in a sentence, you can even flip it and start with the subordinate clause if you want. However, if you do that, the conjunction has to stay at the start of that clause. We do this sometimes to emphasize something, like, although he's almost 80, my grandpa still plays football every week. So you're emphasizing the although he's almost 80 by putting it first, but the subordinating conjunction had to stay at the start. Same thing as, because I didn't do my homework, I'm not allowed to go out. You could have also said, I'm not allowed to go out because I didn't do my homework. But you can move it to the start, but it's still the subordinate clause. The main clause is still, my grandpa plays football every week, or I'm not allowed to go out. And then the other one starting with although or because is the subordinate one, because that's the part that doesn't mean anything without the relevance of the main clause. There's one more group of conjunctions we can talk about, which are ones that appear as a pair, and we call them correlative conjunctions. They're sort of almost coordinating conjunctions, except for the fact that they're paired up. So you might have something like either this or that, or neither this nor that, or not only this but also that, or I don't know whether he will come or he will send his sister, or something like that. So these ones, they're sort of like coordinating conjunctions. They join things that are of equal importance, but you can move them either way. I don't know whether he'll send his sister or he'll come himself would have been a completely acceptable option, alternative to what I said just before. So if you ever see those ones in a sentence and you're trying to work out what word class it is, those are also conjunctions. They're still joining things together, which is what conjunction means. Okay, let's leave that there.